Before he became the most loyal player the NBA had seen in a generation, before he was a nightmare to opposing coaches and every defender in the Western Conference, like when he stood near half-court in the final seconds of a playoff series and released a 37-foot three-pointer over the outstretched hand of Paul George. Or when, with less than 1 second remaining, he caught the ball at 25 feet and buried a buzzer beater that ended a 14-year playoff series drought for an entire city. Damian Lillard was celebrated by the league and adored by his city. So how did a kid from one of the toughest neighborhoods in the country become one of the greatest players in NBA history? And what has he done since cementing himself into basketball history? Damian Lillard grew up in Brookfield Village, a neighborhood in the part of Oakland, California. During the 1990s, Brookfield Village was a community shaped by poverty, crime, and the constant presence of violence. Lillard has never shied away from describing exactly what that meant in practical terms. He was riding public buses with his older brother as early as the first and second grade, sitting on those buses and learning to read situations and people the way other children his age were learning to read picture books. He once described the neighborhood as being full of lions, tigers, and bears, and explained that in a place like that, a person simply could not afford to be a poodle. There was a particular kind of silence that Lillard remembers from those years. The strange, uneasy quiet that would fall over the neighborhood at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when dogs would bark in distant yards, and something in the air would tell him and his brother that it was time to go inside and stay there. That sense of danger, before it arrived, planted a composure in Damian Lillard that no basketball coach could ever teach, and no training drill could ever replicate. Basketball entered his life not through organized leagues or expensive training programs, but through a milk crate that had been nailed to a telephone pole in his grandmother's front yard. There was no backboard attached to it, and the opening of the crate was narrower and more unforgiving than a regulation basketball rim. If a young Damian wanted the ball to go through, he had to shoot it with a high, looping arc, and with the kind of precise aim that left absolutely no room for error. Without knowing it, that cramped little milk crate on a telephone pole was engineering one of the most dangerous long-range shooting mechanics the sport would ever see. His mother, Gina Johnson, understood something that most people around her did not have: the peace of mind to see clearly. She understood that basketball was not simply a sport for her son, but a way of filling the most dangerous hours of the day with something productive and supervised. His father, Houston Lillard, Sr., provided something that many young men growing up in Brookfield Village never had available to them: a consistent, present, and engaged father figure who believed in discipline, commitment, and the importance of finishing what you start. In a neighborhood where the shortcuts of street life were visible and tempting every single day, his father's steady presence kept Damian's eyes pointed towards something better. And before any of this shaped him, there was a link to professional wrestling. At 7 and 8 years old, Damian Lillard's greatest hero was a wrestler called the Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior's entire personality was built around intensity and the ability to perform under the brightest lights with total conviction. Damian's brother recalls that the NBA was not the goal back then. Emulating the ferocity and showmanship of the Ultimate Warrior was the goal. That early obsession with performance and high intensity would eventually become something the basketball world knew by a different name. Damian Lillard's journey through high school was not the smooth, celebrated experience of a player who was always recognized for how good he was. He stood only 5 feet and 5 inches tall as a freshman. His small frame meant that the talent scouts who were filling up gyms to watch the next generation of stars frequently looked right past him. He attended 3 different high schools over 4 years, searching each time for an environment that would give him the opportunity he had already decided he deserved. He started at Arroyo High School in San Lorenzo, where his skills were impressive enough to earn him a spot on the varsity starting lineup as a freshman despite his size. But when his coach did not return for the following season, the stability of the program collapsed, and he made the decision to transfer. He moved to St. Joseph Notre Dame High School in Alameda, a private institution with a prestigious basketball history, the very school that had once produced Hall of Fame point guard Jason Kidd, a man whose name Lillard would one day share space with in the record books. But at St. Joseph, despite everything he could do on the court, Lillard spent the majority of his sophomore season sitting on the bench while other players got opportunities that he was certain he was more qualified for. That experience of being passed over planted a belief deep inside Damian Lillard that he was consistently undervalued. That belief became something he carried into every gym, draft room, and playoff series for the rest of his career. He eventually transferred to Oakland High School for his junior year, where a coach named Orlando Watkins paid close enough attention to see what others had been missing. Watkins noticed that while other teenagers his age were concerned with their social lives and their weekends, Damian Lillard was in the gym alone, working obsessively on his ball handling and his shooting at hours when nobody had asked him to be there. Under Watkins, Lillard's development accelerated dramatically, and a creative training tool became a central part of his growth during this period. He and his trainers constructed a tall obstacle out of a ladder with a broomstick attached to the top, and they gave it a name, Oscar. Oscar was used to stand in for a towering defender, forcing Lillard to practice releasing the ball quickly, cleanly, and over extreme height in tight, uncomfortable situations, again and again until it became second nature. Every time you watch Damian Lillard pull up from 35 feet with a 7-foot defender's hand in his face and drain the shot without hesitating, Oscar is somewhere in the history of that moment. Despite leading Oakland High School to a 23-9 record in his senior season and earning first-team All-League honors in both his junior and senior years, the major college programs in the country showed almost no interest in Damian Lillard. The National Recruiting Services rated him as a 2-star prospect, which, in the language of college basketball recruitment, is the equivalent of saying probably not good enough. The only program that showed him consistent, genuine interest was Weber State University, a mid-major school in Ogden, Utah, with no national spotlight and no guaranteed path to NBA visibility. Lillard chose Weber State partly because he wanted to physically remove himself from the dangerous distractions of Oakland and immerse himself completely in building himself more. His impact on the program was immediate. As a true freshman in the 2008-09 season, he averaged 11.5 points per game and became the first freshman since Rodney Stuckey to earn first-team All-Conference honors in the Big Sky Conference. By his sophomore season, he was leading the entire conference in scoring at 19.9 points per game and guiding the Wildcats to a conference championship. Then, 9 games into his junior season, at a moment when the whole country was finally starting to notice him, his right foot fractured during a game against Tulsa, and everything stopped. The surgery and the recovery kept him off the court for the rest of that season. The medical redshirt year that followed was, by Lillard's own account, the period that transformed him from a talented college player into something closer to a professional. He called the injury a minor setback for a major comeback, and he spent his time away from the game watching film for hours every day, developing a boxing training routine to strengthen his upper body and core, and quietly rebuilding himself into a player who was physically and mentally ready to compete at the highest level. When he returned to his redshirt junior season in 2011-12, he led the entire nation in scoring for most of the year, finished second nationally with a school record 24.5 points per game, scored in double figures in all 32 games, and became the only player in Big Sky Conference history to earn All-American honors. He also made certain before he left Ogden that he departed with his degree in professional sales, fulfilling a promise he had made to his mother that his education would be completed regardless of what his basketball career required. Before the 2012 NBA draft, Lillard held a pre-draft workout in Oakland that people who were there still talk about. When the session was over, his trainer, Chris Farr, unrolled a length of yellow caution tape around the perimeter of the court, a deliberate signal to the NBA scouts in the room that what they had just witnessed was a crime scene, that the evidence of something extraordinary had been laid out in front of them, and it was now their job to act on it. The Portland Trail Blazers selected Lillard with the 6th overall pick, and on October 31, 2012, in his very first NBA game against the Los Angeles Lakers, he recorded 23 points and 11 assists, becoming only the third player in the entire history of the league after Oscar Robertson and Allen Iverson to post a 20-point, 10-assist game in their professional debut. During his rookie season, he started all 82 games, led every first-year player in both scoring and assists, broke Stephen Curry's rookie record for three-pointers made in a single season with 185, and was named the unanimous NBA Rookie of the Year. Over the next decade in Portland, Lillard became the kind of player that a city builds its entire identity around. He began tapping his left wrist before the biggest moments of games, a gesture that told opponents, teammates, and 20,000 people in the arena that it was Dame time. And Portland loved him for it. The moments that permanently defined his place in the history of the game came in bursts that left people struggling for words. In the 2014 playoffs, with Portland trailing the Houston Rockets by 2 points and only 0.9 seconds remaining on the clock, Lillard curled off a screen, caught the ball 25 feet from the basket, and released a buzzer beater that won the series for Portland and ended a 14-year drought for the franchise. In the 2019 playoffs against the Oklahoma City Thunder, with the game tied and the clock winding down to its final seconds, he stood near half court, dribbling calmly while Paul George backed away from him, then stepped to the side and launched a 37-foot three-pointer that traveled so high into the arena lighting before dropping cleanly through the net. He waved goodbye to the Oklahoma City bench afterward and became one of the most recognized images in modern basketball history. That same postseason, even while playing through a rib injury that would have kept most players on the bench, he guided Portland to their first Western Conference Finals appearance since the year 2000. Then came the 2022-23 season, when Lillard reached an offensive peak so extraordinary that the numbers themselves seemed difficult to believe. In a game against the Houston Rockets, he scored 71 points in just 39 minutes of play, including 13 three-pointers, becoming the oldest player in NBA history to score 70 or more points in a single game, and the only player ever to accomplish that feat while also making 10 or more threes in the same performance. That same season, he surpassed Clyde Drexler to become the Portland Trail Blazers' all-time leading scorer, settling once and for all the question of who the greatest player in the franchise's history had ever been. And yet, for all the loyalty that Portland fans celebrated and the media praised, the Blazers never built a team around Lillard that was capable of genuinely competing for a championship. By the summer of 2023, after years of quiet patience, through rebuilding seasons and early playoff exits, Damian Lillard requested a trade. He named the Miami Heat as his preferred destination. But when the trade was eventually completed, it sent him not to Miami, but to the Milwaukee Bucks, where he would play alongside two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. He called it a big boy decision, and his debut in Milwaukee was impressive, scoring 39 points, the most any player had ever scored in their first game as a Buck. He led the Bucks to the inaugural NBA Cup championship in 2024 and was named the All-Star Game MVP in Indianapolis. And for a moment, it appeared that the gamble had paid off exactly as planned. But the move to a new city was happening at the same moment that something in his personal life was falling apart. Just days after the trade was completed, in October 2023, Lillard filed for divorce from Kayla Hansen, the woman he had met at Weber State, married in 2021, and had 3 children with. Moving to a new city, being separated from his children, adjusting to a new team, and navigating the end of a long relationship were happening to him simultaneously. Lillard later acknowledged that the combination of it all made that season the most personally difficult of his entire career. He processed much of it through music, releasing music under his rap name, Dame Dollar, which stands for Different on Levels the Lord Allows, titled Yagi, or You Acquire Greatness Internally. The 2024-25 season brought physical challenges that would have defined the final chapter of a lesser man's story. In March of 2025, Lillard was diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis in his right calf, a serious blood clot condition that forces him to miss the end of the regular season. He pushed himself to return for the playoffs, but in Game 4 of the opening round against the Indiana Pacers, he suffered a torn Achilles tendon in his left leg, one of the most serious injuries a professional basketball player can experience, and one that has ended careers before the player ever fully returned. Shortly after that, the Milwaukee Bucks waived him to clear salary cap space. What happened next was surprising to the people who had been watching from the outside, but it felt, to anyone who truly understood Damian Lillard, like the only thing that made complete sense. He returned to Portland and signed a 3-year contract with the Trail Blazers, fully aware that his Achilles injury meant he would miss the entire 2025-26 season in recovery. Then he found 2 new ways to remain useful to the sport that had given him everything. He returned to Weber State University, the mid-major program that had believed in him when no one else would. And on August 2nd, 2025, he was officially introduced as the general manager of the men's basketball program. He also took up a daily presence on Portland's bench as a mentor and senior figure, working specifically with young guards like Scoot Henderson and transferring the hard-won wisdom of 15 professional seasons into the next generation of players. And then in February 2026, despite not having played a single regular season game anywhere due to his Achilles recovery, he entered the NBA three-point contest and won it, defeating Devin Booker and Con Newpol in the final round to claim his 3rd career title in the competition. His contributions away from the basketball court are equally worthy of the story. Under the name Dame Dollar, he has released 5 studio albums, including The Letter O in 2016 and Big Dollar in 2019. In February 2025, he launched the Damian Lillard Scholars Program at Portland State University, committing $100,000 to fully fund 4-year college degrees for students from 9 East Bay high schools in Oakland. He created, as he described it, a bridge between the city where he came from and the city that made him into who he is. So if you like this video, let us know in the comments below and make sure you subscribe so you never miss what comes next.